And I'm wondering, Phil, what are your thoughts on how we reclaim this? Because working this way is going to be, you know, certainly into the months, the years ahead.
You've got to think of your meetings or your interactions, let's say, rather than meetings, because I think they are more. They're potentially transactions, but they're interactions. I think you've got to think about how you structure them as leaders. So it's about encouraging people to either influence a meeting or give their opinion, and also have time out to come up with some ideas. I think it's very hard, you know, you haven't got post-it notes, or you've got to create that environment and spend a bit more time creating in your meeting the opportunity to get those ideas and that creativity out. And I think for us as leaders, I think one of my lenses as well is that also zoomed out is very easy to fill your day with Zoom meetings, or with Teams meetings or whatever medium that you use. And I think we've got to make sure that we have time as leaders to think about how we're going to make our meetings creative, or make our meetings more effective. And sometimes as leaders, we don't afford ourselves that time. You know, and I think we've got to think about that. And I think it's important, because ultimately time is more precious now than it ever has been, with all the other things that you have to combine. And so spending that time to think about how you make meetings more effective, and also engage with, you know, there's plenty of meetings that we have that have 16, 17 people on. You know, how can you know, with only one person able to talk, you can't see people's reactions. So you're going to have to bring people into the meeting, and you're going to have to think of creative ways to do that. Some of that is, in my view, that's about preparation, and taking the time to prepare about how you're going to get the most out of that meeting. Not forgetting some of the basic things about meeting principles, around really being clear about what the objectives are, and making sure that everyone in the meeting contributes, and they're there for the right reason. I think all of those things stay true, but us as leaders need to find the right construct to make the meeting.
Yeah, I agree with you. I think it's actually really provoked that there needs to be much more preparation and structure to get what you want from the meetings that you're having online, in a way that you didn't before.
Yeah, and in some ways, going through a PowerPoint deck I find is even worse now than it was before, because it's up. You lose the people on the screen, so you've then got them as a little postage stamp at the bottom, and then they're, you know, prescribing, going through a presentation. I think we've got to create, how do you create the meetings that give people the power and right to think like a flip chart conversation or a whiteboard conversation. And that as leaders is I think is a difficult and new task that we need to overcome virtually.
Well, it'd be great to hear from anybody listening to this in the comments section as to their ideas about how they're leading creative sessions at this time.
Yes, definitely.
So thinking about the future now, Phil, and you're moving into a new role, what is it you want to preserve from this time? Because there's no going back to how we were, right? So what is it that you want to preserve most?
I think there's a few different angles to this that I take. I think the first one, which I have taken on board, is the mental well-being of individuals within the team. I think that has become more apparent as a leader through this time than it ever has come before. And that awareness, I think, is key to a number of things, really. One is really about how you plan and have a balanced working day, and ensure that the workload and the deadlines and the work that your team are completing is balanced, really. And I think that then follows on to if you achieve the awareness of mental health or mental well-being, a balanced working day, I think productivity will increase. And I've seen that in some of the individuals within my team. They found an environment that has worked for them, whereas their environment before was a stressed commute, around the M62 or whatever that may be, couldn't find a parking space. Whereas their life now as, you know, do some things with the family in the morning and then be able to be really productive through the day. So really recognizing that balance in the working day is really important. And I think just echoing some of the other things I've said already, which is really understanding what motivates people. You know, I think as leaders, we sometimes jump to financial rewards as a way of recognition, but sometimes I think understanding what motivates people, as much as saying to someone, have Friday afternoon off so you can go and pick your kids up, with that context that you understand that that would mean so much to someone, is going to be far more powerful than a financial reward as recognition for some excellent work or going above and beyond their responsibilities. And then building on the last point that we just said is time does not have to be filled to be productive. You know, we've got to have time to think, and I think even more so in this world that we're in now, we can consume ourselves far too quickly with meetings and Zooms and other sessions, and really trying to preserve the fact that we've got to have time as leaders to think.
What you were saying about mental well-being, I mean, that has firmly come onto the agenda in the last 12 months in business. And this period has really served to accelerate that, and accelerate it at a really practical level in terms of guidance that organisations are offering to their employees and the support that they're giving, but also accelerate it in terms of acceptance, because addressing mental well-being before was sort of, you know, should I really be doing that? You know, is that the right thing to be doing? Yeah, maybe it's the right thing to be seen to be doing, but the sincerity of the commitment, in my observation, wasn't necessarily there 12 months ago. And now it truly is front and center. And it feels like, I'm with you, it's not just for this time, it's something that now going forward has been totally embraced as a vital part of an organisation's responsibility to its employees, and a responsibility we all have to ourselves and our families and our lives.
Yeah, I agree. And I think one of the things through this as well is that as leaders, we should ask ourselves is, do we have the tools to help the people that work underneath us to support them? You know, I've had situations where, you know, people have said, you know, I can't sleep at the moment. You know, I don't feel qualified, you know, in that space to really go out and say, well, in that situation, have you tried this or tried that? I feel very comfortable in some, you know, more development side of things to help. I've got tools in that space, but as a leader, do I have enough tools to help people get through? I'm not necessarily saying that I'm going to solve a sleep pattern, but just some simple things that may support them. Because I think a lot of it comes back to my first point around openness. I don't think people like that would have spoken about the inability to sleep or whatever that may be before, but they do now because of the world that we're in. But then I think as leaders, we've got to think, do we have the tools to help our people? And I suppose that's a question for all of us as leaders in the mental kind of well-being awareness.
All of us at the bottom of Maslow's hierarchy of needs right now, you know, concerned with our safety, our health, finances, in different ways, shapes or form, whether that's at a family level or as an organisation. And it's really important just to initially recognise that. And I know that in terms of our offer to our clients about really supporting leaders' well-being at this time, what's needed, it's the basics of recognising that that's where we are, being able to name that and talk about that and find ways through this current time. It's not about self-actualization right now. Our work certainly isn't in that space. It's about that survival. And it's an important conversation to have with yourself, with your family, and at work. So yeah, delighted to be supporting that. In terms of